When you were a kid, did you ever collect something and not really realize why you were drawn to collect it? Well, my guest today, Janice Gallardo Walters, has a really fun story of something she collected when she was a child. And in the end, when she was really burnt out and not happy in her corporate sales job, she remembered that story of what she did when she was 12 years old. And it led to her creating a whole new business and a whole new life for herself. So take a listen, get inspired, and think about what you used to collect when you were a little kid and why was it so near and dear to your heart? Might be an indication of what you could do as an adult to make money and make a living and really enjoy your life. Welcome to the empowering world of Ladies Who Leap podcast, where brave souls share their remarkable journeys of venturing beyond their comfort zones to craft lives filled with passion and purpose. Tune in to hear the awe-inspiring tales of individuals who dared to defy their fears and embrace the unknown, paving the way for a future they truly adore. Welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast. Hi, well, welcome to Ladies Who Leap. Today I have a guest, Janice Gallardo Walters. Janice founded Gallardo Graphics in 2004 in response to her fascination with the power of visual concepts, particularly effective branding and logo design. A graduate of the University of California, Berkeley, Janice spent more than 20 years in marketing and sales, primarily in commercial interiors and architecture, home goods, and fabric design. Ooh, fabric design, that's neat. Working side by side with some of the nation's most creative architects and designers, Janice's appreciation of powerful design statements blossomed. Her entrepreneurial spirit led her to branch out on her own as a graphic designer in Los Angeles, and so Gallardo Graphics was born. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Let's start with your childhood because I like to go to where even ideas of where you wanted to do what you wanted to do as an adult came from. When did you realize you were good, what you were good at, and that you could possibly do this as a career?
Aside from wanting to be a ballerina,
Yeah.
I had ballerina curtains in my room. Actually, I grew up with a really strong sense of design and color because my dad was an interior designer. And he actually came from a family of upholsterers, but he expanded his business to include a whole design thing. And so visual beauty from what we ate all the way through to the way the house was his purview. That's what he cared about. And he really made it known. He wasn't pushy about it, but visually beautiful things were always really important. And I, I kind of floated around in that. I didn't think about it too much. But then when I was about 12, I started collecting business cards because I loved the little miniature graphics that were on that. And I made a giant bulletin board, which is actually in my office. I had forgotten all about this bulletin board, and it had like, I don't know, 50 or 75 different local business cards on it. And when my mom was moving out of her house, I found it in the back of my childhood closet. And I'm like, wow, that was very foundational, something that I loved and set aside. And I had come full circle with it. So it was sort of an undercurrent, really more than a blatant realization that I wanted to do something creative. In fact, practicality was more the order of the day in my home, really being practical, making money, making a smart decision about where you were going to put your efforts. So I kind of backed into it, to be honest.
Yeah, and I've always stressed I have this dream method, and one of the first things I say is discover what you did or loved to do as a child in your childhood. So you did do, I mean, you just explained it just now, and how interesting for you to come full circle and go back to it because it really, at that age, your interests are so pure, right? You just know what it is that you like to do, and you just do it. There's no second guessing. There's no limiting beliefs yet. There's nothing at that
This
point
is
that's
true.
stopping you. Yeah. And you
Mhm.
just go for it. And in your case, it was collecting. I love that. And putting them on a bill. It's probably a beautiful
It's
collage.
pretty cool. It really is. And it's interesting to see, where graphic design has gone or how much it hasn't changed, the statements that were made. So there was a lot of brilliant stuff being done way back in the pre-digital age. But I think also I'm remembering something that happened in fourth grade or third grade where I always had like my best design work, my most interesting wins, I'll put it, are when something pops into my head and I know that that's the right solution for what I'm doing. But like in third grade, I remember having an idea for a book cover, a book report cover. And it was that whole tension between what you see in your head and what comes out on the page. And that's always the challenge, I think, is making that visual concept a reality. It's sometimes it flows so easily and sometimes it's literal work. So that's the process.
And to think it went back to that period in your life. I mean, I have to be honest, I loved speaking, so I loved book reports that you got had to get up and talk about. But I never thought about the cover of the book report. Here you were, this was your focus, was what does
That was
the
my
cover.
focus. I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to do it. Yeah. That's great. Mhm.
And you are a creative person, and that's a really fantastic characteristic to base a career on. In fact, you had told me that it was that evolution over 20 years in graphic design. And I know listeners would benefit from that story and that journey because it includes several leaps. So can you tell that
This is true.
story?
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, so you want me to start at the beginning of how I got into it?
Yeah, yeah, because it sounds like your parents wanted you to get a
And I
job.
did do practical things. And when I went to school, my initial idea was to study language, right? I love language, words and things. And my mom actually said, "Well, what are you going to do with that?" And in my head, I heard, "Well, what are you going to do with that?" Which may not have been what she intended, but so I thought, well, I guess I need to be more practical. So I studied political economics and I loved it, but it was fascinating and it's still fascinating to me, but it's not my passion. And I pursued a sales and marketing career. I just was all the companies I worked for were all creatively oriented companies. That's what I was attracted to. And really the leap came after I had kids, like a lot of women, they're kind of redefining themselves as a mom, but what else? And about a year after my first child was born, I was like, there's something I want to do. I don't know what it is. I need something else. And so gradually, I was looking at two different fields actually. One was this whole design thing, because as you said in the intro, I was spending a lot of time with super creative people, high level designers and things for commercial interiors, you museums and office buildings and all that, really interesting high design. But at the same time, I was actually pursuing a certificate in culinary school at UCLA when they had a extension program, and I was like, okay, is it design or is it cooking? And I deeply went into each one. I traveled a little. I thought maybe I'll have a kids, up in Portland, there's some really interesting restaurants that are oriented towards kids. And I thought, well, that could be cool, And so I thought about it, but then and I was passionate about it. But then I thought, I will be working when everybody else is playing, because restaurants here, nights, weekends, whatever. I thought that's not for me. And so then I just put my full, beam on the idea of design. And it's funny because I wouldn't recommend that anybody do it exactly like I did it because I did it out of desire. I had a desire to be in this world of beautifully designed visual paper or digital things. I wanted to be in that world, but I never did a business plan. I never did all the steps that you're supposed to do. And I think they are good steps, but I just said, okay, I'm going in, this is where I'm starting. And it's evolved a great bit ever since the beginning. Because in the beginning, and tell me if I'm talking too much, like if you need me to
No,
breathe.
I know it's good. And I just want to make sure we're in the right path. When you're talking about in the beginning, you mean in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey,
Yes, correct. When
Gallardo
I when
Designs.
I leaped out on my own. And so, because it just was the kind of position that I had in corporate America at that time was all consuming. It was probably 60 hours a week, easily, of hours being involved with my clients. And I just was not compatible with being around your children very much. So, and that was a surprise. I thought, it would be okay to do the nanny thing. It didn't turn out to feel good. So, anyway, when I started this business, it was really oriented towards personal stationery, note cards, wedding invitations, party type stuff. And I did that circuit for about 3, 4 years and realized it wasn't really my gift. I liked it, but my gift really is more in the business world. And so I just gradually started paying attention more to things like networking, which is a little painful sometimes, but I did do the networking game and I met people. I got involved with organizations that were focused on business, whether it was um, like there was the South Bay Business Women's Association at that time, chambers of commerce, all these things. And I just kept going, little steps, little steps. And I would kind of talk about developing logos for people. But then I realized I was missing out on business that I wanted to have because people were not understanding the breadth of what I had to offer because I wasn't telling them. Like I had learned how to design websites, I had learned all kinds of different social media things, but I wasn't speaking out loud about it. And I think that's a leap we have to make too, is to, kind of walk that line or become comfortable with the line between speaking your truth about what you know how to do and feeling comfortable that that's not bragging. That was something I had to look at the humility piece and figure out how that was going to work. And then just the other leap has really been more um, kind of foisted upon all of us in a good way about technology and the technology behind graphic design. Of course, I benefit. I never had to do the art boards and all those little cut and paste things, literally, that people used to have to do. I've always designed in a digital way, but there was much more print before. Now there's, I would say before it was 70 to 80% print work that I did. Now I would say maybe 25 to 30%. So much of what I do, especially like with big event support, where I come in, I help create the theme of an event, and then I provide all the services that make that event happen, whether it's a website, an auction platform, signage, registrations, all those things, and it all carries the theme. So it was a very gradual kind of flow. But there was a trick that one of my girlfriends taught me, she's like my mentor for graphic design. She said, and again, I don't know if this is advisable for everyone, but she said, if you don't know how to do something, tell them you do and then figure it out. And so there have been a couple of instances where I've had to really quickly research a technology and kind of call in some favors about how to do something, kind of a fake it till you make it thing. But it's all adaptability, I think, is what is really the biggest thing is adapting and learning that, at this point in my life, there are a lot of people younger than me that can offer a lot of new perspectives. So listening to
So
that.
yeah, you've said a lot of great things, a lot of things, and I'm hoping I can remember because number one, when you talked about deciding what you wanted to do, I loved it. The cooking or both creative in a lot of ways. And what it sounds like you did is you took one of your values, which was spending time with your family and friends. And that became the driving force to make that decision. And that's
Mhm.
important. I mean, I've stressed that. In fact, I just did a little TikTok video about values and how important it is in your decision making in your life. You did that unconsciously. You just knew, okay, I want to do something that gives me the time in the evening to spend with friends and family.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Mhm.
And then when you're sitting there and you're talking about being at these networking meetings and not really sharing everything that you do, that's also a bit of a woman thing.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
believe that in some part of our minds, we maybe have this imposter syndrome where we feel like, okay, I can do this, but am I really good at it? Or am I just lucky? And I'll kind of tell you a little bit. And do you really want to work with me? Or do the whole self-doubt and all of that. So and taking the leap of just listening to your friend, the mentor, and doing it, no matter if you didn't have all of the knowledge. In fact, you and I had a very fun conversation about one of those events that really led you to take a leap and trust in yourself. And that
Yeah.
was, I've got a lot of musician friends. That was the NAMS. I
The
call it
NAM
the
thing.
NAM story. Can you
Hmm.
tell that NAM story?
Yeah, that's one of my favorites because I was brought in. This is the National Association of Music Merchants, and they have a huge trade show. Like we're talking 75,000 people that come to Anaheim Convention Center, and I knew the people that were pioneering this idea of offering an electronic press kit to any exhibitor, and there are hundreds of exhibitors, and it was made available to them for free. So the people that I knew said, "Can you do a digital, online flip book, which is like a it's like a book that you turn the pages. Most of us have seen these, but you had to have all the pages, but each page had to have the capability of having external links. So maybe their website or their emails or their actual press kit. Can you make that happen?" Well, I had made little tiny flip books that were like 4 pages. I had never had one that had to possibly exceed 100 pages with unlimited linkages on the outside. I didn't even know. So I started researching and I found one that was really nimble and you could add to it. It wasn't expensive, but it was in London and they have zero phone support. And the time difference between us and London, and this particular document had to be ready at an exact time because as I learned, a lot of musician oriented companies, they do what's called an embargo on a product. So say Fender is having a whole new guitar line. It cannot be leaked at all until 3 o'clock on January 23rd, and it has to fly perfectly. And I didn't know how to make it, I didn't know how to do it, but I figured it out and it went really well. And I got to do the second year, which was just this past January. So it
So
was
you said
definitely like,
yes. You
yeah,
said
that was a
yes when
yes.
they asked you, even though you didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, I said
Totally.
yes. I'll do it. Yeah, I know. It was so stressful, and it was January, so of course there went December. But yeah, that was a really great feeling to have the confidence around that.
Yeah. And even if you don't have the confidence, saying yes and knowing, okay, I can figure this out,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that's growth. And I'm sure that everything that you learned from doing that event carried forth to all the other work that you do and went and did afterwards, right?
Yeah, it's no longer as intimidating. You're like, oh, I like the second year when I did it, I was blocking out all this time, and it took almost no time because I'd figured out the little tricks. So yeah, it's fun to stay stimulated, keep your brain stimulated about things like that too. I think it's really healthy. So,
Yeah, and it's where you grow, being
yeah.
comfortable, which it sounds like this was, I mean, I'm getting uncomfortable just listening to the story. Just listening to the
But you
story.
know what? There's another point I want to make about discomfort or comfort, and that is, I think as I've matured in the world and in my business, I've learned uh, you're probably familiar with this too, Lisa. You kind of drop into your body and you feel, is this a good decision or is this not a good decision? And I think when you're uncomfortable, then you have to go do some problem solving. And I think that kind of being in touch has helped me get through sometimes that maybe I'm not doing quite the right thing or this does feel right, just having that sort of center that we always have to come back to. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and that's intuitiveness too, but not being afraid or being courageous to do
Mhm.
something that you is uncomfortable to you, but you know you want to learn how to do it and you want to go in that direction.
Right.
When your intuition says, yes, this is the right thing to do, and yes, it's very uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it's going to
Mhm.
help me to grow either personally or professionally. And I know that this is going to come out good. And guess what? If you fail, you learn something. And I
That's
don't
true.
mean flat out failed. I mean, if you made some mistakes, then you learn from those mistakes and you can, in the future, do it a little differently.
And I think another thing is that doing hard things is usually it's harder thinking about them than doing them. And I
Oh,
think breaking that inertia and saying, okay, I'm dreading this, but why don't I just jump in? It's only going to be bad until you start. And then, well, then it's either really bad or you just get through it, I guess. But thinking about it is a real chore sometimes. So
That's funny that you say that because we just started getting earthquake. I'm in Southern California. We got the earthquake little alerts. And I got
I
one.
liked that, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
got it. And
yeah.
I was on a call with someone talking to them. And I was like, once I got the alert, I was like sitting here going, okay, when is it coming? And it was for me, because I wasn't close, it was very soft. So had the alert not come and I hadn't even thought about it, I probably wouldn't even felt the earthquake at
That's right.
all. So it was, like you said, it's the thinking about it that's actually
Mhm.
worse than the experience.
Yeah, the manufacturing of anxiety or something, right? So, yeah.
So
Mhm.
who do you, I like to ask this of my guests, who do you lean on for support or when things get tough? And
Oh,
why?
I it's usually girlfriends. I have the mentor who gave me that idea about, fake it till you make it kind of thing. I lean on her a lot. In fact, I'm working on a design thing with her right now. And, so we talk probably 2, 3 times a week at least, and just about everything. So she's a real rock. And then there are other women that I work with. That I just have ongoing, really open, honest, vulnerable. That's another thing I had to learn was the vulnerability piece. When I'm uncertain about how to handle something, a strategy perhaps. There's a few business women that I really like that are also really, really good friends, just deeply respected across all all areas. And then my big brother, quite honestly, yeah, he's kind of a very logical kind of rock and technological too. So I'd say, I'm thinking of 3 people right now that I really lean on for my business type of things in general.
Yeah, and these are people that you trust. And I think that's
Totally,
interesting, especially
totally.
when you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable with them.
Right.
That's difficult, and I know it
Mhm.
is. But when you can be that with someone and trust them, then when those days that you really need support and you need to talk to someone, they're there for you. And again, I'm going to say you're probably there for them also when they need the same type
I
of support.
like to be. My older brother never asks that of me. Kind of frustrates me a little. He's always going to be the big brother till
Mm,
we die. So it's kind of a one-way street in terms of help. But I think he likes that. I think he likes it that way.
I'd like to
So
be able to help you.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So if you're enjoying the show today, please like, subscribe, follow, make a comment. I really appreciate it and want to keep on doing this. And I want to keep on sharing these wonderful stories of these great ladies that have leapt out of their comfort zone in order to have a more fulfilling life. And you, as a listener, can learn from them and get inspired. Thanks, and let's get back to the show. So, what obstacles, both internal, external, have you had to overcome to be where you are today?
I would be honest and say that probably you talked about the imposter syndrome. And I think what goes hand in hand with that, with women, I think in particular, is not asking for enough money or
Mhm.
not asking for your worth, like quoting too low. And when I counsel people that are starting a business and they want my help with the visuals and they're going to do an introductory price, I'm like, don't do that because that's going to be your price. So I would say probably pricing is like being brave about my pricing and what my time is worth. Um, Also thinking bigger, dreaming bigger about bigger clients. That's something that I have to constantly, kind of push myself a little bit and sort of say to myself, you belong in that space. You get to take up that space. I would say that the obstacles haven't been imposed upon me. They're probably internal limits or, call it limiting beliefs type of thing. Or just, and I did have to work with the coach for time management because I had terrible time management and it was a really useful exercise. She helped me understand what my jobs were that I needed to get done throughout the week and when my most productive times were for each type of job. And that's been like a decade since I worked with her, and I still follow that for the most part of when am I the most creative? When should I be doing that kind of work? And when would I be, because I'm just by myself, I don't have a staff of any sort. If I need outside services, I contract for them. So when do I do the admin? When do I make my calls? All that kind of stuff was really important. And that time management was definitely an obstacle because I was sort of, as a creative person, maybe distracted, very distracted on an ongoing basis. So really putting some guideposts into my life so that I got done what I felt was really important. So I would
That's
say
a
that.
really good piece of advice. And it's not something that I would necessarily think of, but while you were talking, I was like, oh my God, I would really like to understand when I am the most creative. Because
Mhm.
right now I'm writing a book and I've set aside a time every week to do that, put it on my calendar so nobody disrupts it. And who knows if that's actually when I'm the most creative. It would be really good to know. See, and so there are all kinds of coaches in this world that have
Yeah.
special niches, and it sounds like that person is really good at what they did with you.
Yeah, she was really good at it. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
helped. hmm
Oh, wow.
and
So,
and limiting your distractions. Like she's like, get the notifications off your laptop, off your desktop, off your phone. Put your phone in the other room. And this was at a time when my oldest was away at college, and it was a huge. She was out of state, and it was a horrible adjustment that first semester. And I just felt like I had to be there for her, and it was very disruptive to my business. It's a managing those things, managing your time, managing your availability.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And actually focusing on yourself and what you do and
Mhm.
giving yourself that, like almost like honoring yourself and your time is something that you did, which
Yeah.
huge difference. We talked about vulnerability a little bit, and
Mhm.
it is powerful when you can harness vulnerability and be comfortable with it. It's a favorite subject of mine. So, what have you, let's say, learned about allowing yourself to be vulnerable? How has harnessing that power helped your business and your personal life?
Well, I learned it really specifically because my upbringing was very much stiff upper lip. You just be tough, right? You be tough, you pick yourself up, you keep going. No one would indulge you, anything like that. And so I remember the walk that I was on, and I was talking to a girlfriend on the phone, and she said, "It sounds like you have a cold." And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." I'm not even letting this person love on me. And that's how she is. And I would deny that there was anything, oh no, I'm fine. And then as time went on, I thought to myself, you're not going to have the relationships you want in life. You're not going to have the intimacy with girlfriends and anybody if you can't be more open to your own frailties, let's say. And so I really thought about that. And it does take practice. I mean, it's only been within the last few months where I've been able to look at people and calmly say, this isn't working for me. And it's very scary for me to tell someone that something that they're doing isn't right for me, because I'm sure they're going to leave, you know? So, and then the same mentor that said to me about, just say yes, you can do it. Her view of vulnerability is very different than the average person. She's like, I consider vulnerability a strength because yeah, and I had never heard anybody say that. I always looked at it as a weakness. But she's like, no, when I'm vulnerable, it shows that I'm in power. I am in my power in this situation because I'm willing to speak to what isn't working for me. So I try and dial that in, but that's only been in the last couple months.
Yeah,
So
it takes us a long
vulnerability.
time, doesn't it, though?
Yeah, it
Because
does.
I
Volunteer.
swear
Yeah.
we're literally very hand in hand with that particular subject. And
Mm.
for me, like you said, I was afraid that if I was allowing my imperfections or my thinking of it as weaknesses, like if I was sick or
Mhm.
something, to show that the person wouldn't want to be my friend anymore,
Yeah,
wouldn't
exactly.
tell me anymore. Yeah, I mean, I have major operations and not tell anyone. Oh, I don't want to bother them.
Yeah. And the flip side of that is when someone talks to me about a situation like that, I say, think about how good it feels when someone does bother you for something. Everybody wants to be needed that way. And it's a very wonderful thing we can do for each other and allow someone to feel like, yeah, I'm happy to help you. It's great,
It's
but
a gift.
yeah.
Yeah, I realized that too over the last couple of years. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, I'm giving someone a gift to be able to help me because when I help someone else, it makes me feel really good. So
Yes.
I'm giving you the
Yes.
same gift, reciprocal, right?
But do you ever have that little voice that says, well, they're just, they don't really mean it, right? They don't really mean it. It's just terrible self-defeating thoughts.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is something. So this has been a fantastic conversation, Janice. Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else, I mean, that you would like to tell people, especially like any experience with a client where you had a major impact on their business? That's a question I just thought of just now.
Ah, usually it's a I'll tell you one story where I was helping a woman. Um, I've worked with her for more than a decade, and she has a massage business, right? And she's very, very good. She has a big following, and we were on our third iteration of her logo, and I love that about her that she reinvents herself and evolves. There's a line through. There's definitely a through line on what she's trying to say, but she's always getting better. So this most recent one was just in the last few months. And she wanted to integrate a sound wave image, okay? Because she has a wooden block in one of her rooms that is a sound wave of something she said once. It's a very spiritual statement. And it's the visual wooden blocks of a sound wave. And she wanted to incorporate that. And so I tried and we were working on it. And finally I said to her, what does this sound wave say about your massage business? Like, it means something to you, but you have to think of your client. And so she's like, nothing. It was so funny. It just doesn't work. I'm like, look, we will integrate the sound wave for you in a subtle way on the back of your business card. So it's there for you, but let's keep the look of your massage business alive here. And so I think sometimes the challenge as a designer is guiding someone to know that it's not just their business isn't just about them. It's about the people that they serve. And like in my case, I love pink. I love girly pink things, but my website certainly wouldn't be that way because that's not the client I'm attracting. So helping people make a good decision and helping them remove their own a certain type of their personal feelings from it. It's a delicate balance, delicate dance, really. So I'd say that's the way I like to help people is to bring an outside perspective that's understands their emotion but isn't emotional.
Wow, that's a really great way of doing business. And I'm sure at the end here in a couple minutes, we're going to tell you how to get a hold of Janice and Gallardo Graphics because if you're writing a book, if you want a business card, if you want a logo, it sounds like Janice is very tuned in and will listen to you in a way that I've never really heard that people doing these creative things listens and understands. So thank you for that. I'm glad I asked that question.
Me too.
Now, the last part is I always ask my guests for their favorite quote, mantra, or positive affirmation. And it could be more than one, but I'd love to hear what yours is.
I thought about this a lot, and one of my journeys right now is about expectations of other people or expectations of situations, and kind of having an energy about how you need something to turn out. Right? We all have our hopes, our dreams, our visions, our fantasies, right? And something that's been really powerful for me as when I think about what I want is the saying that goes, if not this, something better.
Oh,
And I really like that because you can put all your energy into something and think this is the be all end all, but it might not be, and there might be something better. So I think remaining open to that and having that mindset of not grabbing something around the neck and choking it because it's what you want it to be, right? So that's what I try and think. If not, and I think this in my personal life an awful lot, um, relational types of things. If not this, something better.
yeah, I just
Apply it to,
recently,
yeah,
I,
the
I
universe.
recently, again, did a little TikTok video thing, and it was expectations lost are opportunities gained.
True. I've also heard the saying, an expectation is a planned disappointment, which is
They're
a little
all
bit.
around the same thing. And
Yeah, they
part of it
are.
is trusting that the universe, your higher power, has another plan for you. So if you
Yeah.
didn't get what you thought you wanted,
Mhm.
not really have been what you wanted.
Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it can. And I always say too, just, it's a bummer and think of it as a bummer and get through that. But
What did you say
understand
yours again? What was yours? Say that one.
expectations lost are opportunities gained.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I need to follow you on TikTok.
Well, Well, let's share how listeners can get a hold of you. What's your website? Something simple, and
Okay,
I'll
it's
put a lot more information in the description.
yeah, thank you. It's gallardographics.com. That's Gallardo and then graphics.com. And then Janice at gallardographics.com. And then I'm on all the social media with at Gallardo Graphics. So that's the best way.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you,
taking this
Lisa.
time. There was so many tidbits of information that I know can help the listeners and just get your confidence about standing up for yourself and feeling vulnerable and understand that it's okay. It's
Yeah.
all okay. What you want is not being selfish. It is being who you are to your true authentic self. And that's how you get to do what you love and have a fulfilling life. So I'm really glad, Janice, that you went through all
Thank
those
you,
lessons and
Lisa.
are still growing and enjoying
Yeah.
things and that you do such a great job. Um,
Thank you.
have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Remember to like and have a fabulous day.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks so much for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the Ladies Who Leap podcast to be notified of new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. Let me know what works, what doesn't, and if you have a story to tell, please reach out. Come join the Leap community at the Ladies Who Leap Club Facebook group. Remember, leaping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens.